I pretended to be asleep and heard my parents discussing a secret they kept for years, and what I heard changed the way I looked at my family forever. It happened when I was 16 years old. One night after a long day, I went to be dearlier than usual, but couldn't fall asleep. A few hours later, I heard my parents talking in the hallway outside my room. Their voices were low and serious, and something about the tone made me curious. I stayed completely still and expecting to hear a normal conversation about Bill's work or family plans. Instead, I heard my mother say, "I do not think we can keep this from him much longer." My heart immediately started racing. My father sighed and replied, "We promised we would wait until the right time." There was a long silence before my mother spoke again. What if there is never a right time? At that point, I was wide awake, pretending to sleep while trying to understand what they were talking about. Then I heard my own name, Miss Stomack, dropped. Instantly, every possibility started running through my mind. Was I adopted? Was someone sick? Was there a family scandal nobody had told me about? The more I listened, the more confused I became. My parents talked about a decision they made years ago. They discussed whether keeping the secret been the right thing to do, and whether I deserved to know the truth. Before I could hear anything else, their voices moved farther down the hallway and eventually disappeared. I barely slept that night. My imagination created 100 different explanations, and each one seemed worse than the last. By morning, I had convinced myself that my entire life was about to change. At breakfast, I watched my parents closely searching for clues, but they acted completely normal, which somehow made me even more suspicious. 4 days it thought about confronting them, but I was afraid of what I might hear. A week later, curiosity finally won. I sat down with my parents and told them the truth. I admitted I had overheard their conversation and asked what secret they had been hiding. Their room went silent. My mother looked shocked. My father closed his eyes as if he had known this day would come. Eventually, they exchanged a glance and my father nodded. Then my mother stood up and retrieved an old box from the closed eye. Inside were photographs, letters, and documents I had never seen before. She placed them on the table and took a deep breath. "Before you look through these," she said, "you need to understand that everything we did was because we loved you." My heart pounded as I opened the box. The first thing was a stack of letters addressed to me, but written years before I was old enough to read them. Then there were photographs of a young couple holding a baby. The baby was me, but the couple was not my parents. For a moment, I could not speak. My mother quietly explained that the people in the photos were my biological parents. They had died in a car accident when I was only a few months old. My parents, the people who raised me, were actually my aunt and uncle. They stepped in after the tragedy and legally adopted me. The room felt like it was spinning. Every memory I had, every birthday, every family vacation, every moment of comfort and support had been shared with people I suddenly realized were not my biological parents. I asked why they never told me. My father explained that they struggled with the decision for years. They wanted me to have a stable childhood free from confusion and grief. They planned to tell me when I was older, but every year it became harder because they feared changing the way I saw them. Then my mother started crying. She said she worried every day that once I learned the truth, I would stop thinking of her as my mother. That was the moment everything changed, because despite the shock, despite the confusion, despite the years of secrecy, I realized something important. The people sitting across from me were the ones who stayed up when I was sick, the ones who attended every school event, the ones who taught me how the idea bike helped me with homework and celebrated every achievement. Biology explained where I came from, but love explained who raised me. Wespen the stalking that day, looking through photographs, reading letters and sharing stories about my biological parents for the first time. They answered every question honestly and admitted they had never intended to keep the secret forever.